All right, we're gonna go through another reaction video. I had found another Piers Morgan interview. This panel looks like it's gonna be raw and uncut and legit scorched earth. Like the intro had me dying laughing, and I had to like stop it, and I was just like, "Yo, I gotta go home and watch this." So let's get into it. I'm gonna try to not do the whole thing. It looked like it's about an hour and 13 minutes, but we're just gonna skim through it. Probably get to the more intense debates and see what's going on. But just the intro alone had me dying laughing, like legit.
Benjamin Netanyahu told us in a tweet last week this fulfills a dream of 40 years. This is a joint Israel-U.S. madness creating havoc for the world.
With all due respect to this so
Keep that in mind. Jeffrey Sachs. This man knows what he's talking about. He's a world economist now. He does a lot of speeches at different world events. Definitely events where all the leaders go to speak. In fact, he was at the G20, if I'm not mistaken, the one Trump boycotted. And he ripped the asshole on that man. In fact, all the leaders ripped the asshole into Trump. That was the first time they were all able to speak freely. And they trashed the shit out of President Trump. But anyway, check out Jeffrey Sachs. I did live stream his speech last week. I can't think of what conference he was at, but he did speak upon this. And it is in my live stream. It should be titled Jeffrey Sachs. But he knows what he's talking about. When he does speak about the economics of the United States, he also drops a lot of history on why a lot of the world countries hate us. So if you want to know the real truth, check him out. Jeffrey Sachs.
so-called professor, Iran is the aggressor. Iran is the one who is spreading this radical ideology.
I'm struggling right now over this definition of evil. What about the decades in which Palestinians lived under a brutal regime of structural apartheid?
It's simply revisionist history. Over the last 2.5 years, Israelis have been living in shelters, attacked over our peaceful border, and it all leads back to
This man, a revision of history.
Iran.
This has nothing to do with America. This is Israel's problem. Yeah, you wipe that smile off your face real quick there, Mr. Israeli spokesman.
That's what I was talking about. Yo, anyway, let's get into this.
The new Ayatollah shares not only a name and a bloodline with his assassinated father, but also many of his hardline views. America and Israel are sworn enemies. Dissent and protest must be crushed. Weakness and chaos in the region makes its neighbours easier to control. It's therefore no surprise, under current circumstances, that Israel says it will kill the new Ayatollah and the one after that. None of this brings us anywhere closer to any of the stated justifications for going to war. In fact, it's the opposite. And many people are still struggling to answer the two prerequisite questions. Why is the US at war? And why does it have to be now? Well, last week, Marco Rubio, Secretary of State, and many others said it had
Consequence of
on uncensored, but particularly after the last week or so. Just first of all, your overview about this war on uncensored, but particularly after the last week or so. Just first of all, your overview about this war, which nobody wants to call a war, and where we are 9-10 days into it.
It's a war, and thousands are being killed. Israel and the United States are carpet bombing Tehran, and there's lots of death, schoolgirls being killed, a bloodbath underway. At the same time, the world economy is about to go into...
Keep in mind, that's the second school that got hit. There was one that got hit in the first 2 days. I think 8 children died, several wounded. But it wasn't as devastating as this one. And the Tomahawk missile apparently was supposed to hit a naval base that was nearby, and I guess they missed. Or they hit the base, but it was like a double tap, and the second missile overshot, whatever. But either way, it was either us or Israel, regardless of what Trump wants to say. Israel and Trump were taking out all the bases anyway, and they're definitely guilty because they had hit a school the first 2 days, and now they're trying to say no, they didn't hit this one. So honestly, they hit 2 schools. I mean, and again, it's in my live stream, so if you want to check out the first. If it's dated, check out the ones between 28 to the 1st. It's in one of those live streams, pretty much.
One of the biggest crises in the modern period, driven by the complete collapse of oil supplies coming from this region, a predictable consequence of the Israeli-U.S. aggression. So this is a calamity. This was a war of choice. Benjamin Netanyahu told us in a tweet last week, this fulfills a dream of 40 years. This is a war not caused only by Israel. This is a joint Israel-U.S. madness. The U.S. wants to rule the world, and Israel wants to rule its region, the Middle East, and they...
So, all you people are pissed off at Trump. This is the actual true agenda of the U.S. government. You heard it, and Jeffrey Sachs would know because, in fact, I think he actually spoke upon this at the G20 last year, that he, again, was, I believe he was a security advisor throughout the years from the second George Bush or the first George Bush through Clinton through the second. So he has very, very good expertise on what the United States government is up to. And the thing is, to my knowledge, I believe he has to work overseas mostly because, to be honest, the amount of information that he has, the CIA and the FBI could have him arrested just to shut him up if they wanted to. The stuff he says, I believe they can't touch him because he probably no longer has a U.S. citizenship. I haven't exactly looked into that, but I do know he tends to stay overseas, most likely for his protection. So keep in mind, this man, every word he says is legit. It's legit because I've looked up most of it before I caught on to his streams, and he's on point.
Partner together, so it's not really right to say that Israel determined this or the U.S. determined this. This is a partnership. It was interesting that you had Tony Blinken on just a moment ago. He partnered in the genocide in Gaza. It was the same with his administration, a U.S.-Israel partnership that goes back decades. It has created a disaster around the Middle East, absolute disaster from Libya to Iran, with many countries desolate and destroyed in between. And it now will create a disaster for the whole world. I know you're going to have Ambassador Danny Dunn on after me. He represents...
So you get the gist of it. And he knows what he's talking about. Like I said, he has been through all the presidents since, like I said, the first Bush. So he knows what the hell's going on. You know. So let's see. Let's get to Iranian military capacity. Danny Dannon reacts to Jeffrey. Oh, let's see what he says here. Here we go. Let's do this.
Ambassador to the UN, Danny Dannon. Danny, welcome back to Uncensored. You heard Jeffrey Sachs there. Obviously, you heard him in person in the UN when he confronted you. Very emotional, very angry. Talks about what you have embarked on here with this war in Iran as a suicide mission that will trigger World War III. What is your response to him?
You know, there's so many lies, so many hate, He is driven by an agenda, to go against Israel no matter what. We saw it during.
Oh my God. We got one of those. We got one of those. He's for Israel. And this and the sad thing is, and in fact, I did a deep dive in the history of the Iran conflict with the United States. Jeffrey Sachs just said in a brief summary what the United States caused, and I did a breakdown of it. So this man is trying to say I'm lying and Jeffrey Sachs is lying, when in fact I pulled that information off of Al Jazeera's website. That's a Middle Eastern company. But anybody who supports Israel is gonna fucking lie. They're gonna try to cover up to make it like, oh no, they're not the bad guys. They're not committing genocide so we can take over the majority of the Middle East and make friends with Saudi Arabia and everybody else.
The war we had with Hamas and now with Iran, but no connection to reality. He's a professor. He's teaching economics. So I hope he knows economics better than he knows geopolitics, because let's go for the basic facts. Why we are now in a war with Iran? Why we have this operation? Not because it's like a conflict between the American people.
Keep in mind, I did say Jeffrey Sachs was in geopolitics before he became an economist. That's how he knows. And I do believe he brought that up in the last G20 so everybody know who he was. In front of all the prime ministers and presidents around the world. I actually watched his speech. In fact, that's what made me understand who he was, because I think I watched him a few videos before that, because I was watching a lot of economists throughout the Trump's first year of 2025. And Trump was slowly tanking our economy, so it's like I had to figure out, okay, what are economists really saying? And he popped up, so along with there's another one, I can't think of his name, but yeah, Jeffrey Sachs was a geopolitical he was an agent in the geopolitics. I forgot. I think he was an advisor, if I'm not mistaken, or he might have been an ambassador for a period too. But anyway, just look him up, Wikipedia. You'll see what he's all about.
Or the Iranian people, not because we have a dispute over borders or over resources. Basically, the cause of the conflict is the radical regime. They decided they don't like the US and they don't like Israel without us saying anything or doing anything. And they took it to the next step, building the capabilities to actually destroy us. And we decided enough is enough. We are not going to wait for them to achieve the ability to destroy us. So with all due respect to this so-called professor, we have facts. And the facts are that Iran is the aggressor. Iran is the one who is spreading this radical ideology. When you speak with Israelis, we love the Iranian people. We have good memories from the days we actually used to go and visit Tehran before the revolution. We admire the wisdom of the Iranian people. But once the revolution happened, and all of a sudden Iran became a rogue state, and they promote the radical ideas of the Ayatollahs, that's why we are where we are.
It's funny how he just twisted that historical fact into a one-sided fact. He's not saying the United States was involved in that revolution that caused the United States to get pushed out of Iran. And then they made a deal under Eisenhower to use nuclear power for electricity and fuel instead of oil strictly. And then Reagan came in, screwed up the business deals, and that's when Reagan made them enemy of the state. They don't see, that's what's crazy about Israel. They're not going to tell you what the United States did, because Israel also is part of NATO. And that's the fucked up part about it. They're part of NATO. And most NATO nations try not to speak ill will of the United States because they're part of NATO. And I get it. No, but I think Trump has pushed people over the edge where they're just like, yeah, we're not holding it back. Some of them are still keeping their mouth shut. Some of them are like, yeah, we're not doing this. So, you know, it's funny, like, people are good at telling you half of the truth and omitting the other half.
Okay, I mean, you say you love the Iranian people. The cold, hard reality on the ground is that more Iranian civilians have now been killed in the last 8-9 days of this war than Hamas killed on October the 7th. That's according to the official figures. That doesn't sit very easily with your love of Iranian civilians.
I beg to differ with you. I think the Iranian people, they cannot say it out loud, but when they look up in the sky and they see the Israeli aircraft and the U.S. Air Force, they are grateful. They have been waiting for those moments for 47 years. They were oppressed, and today we come to unchain them.
How is he saying that? And they looking up in the sky as we speak and seeing U.S. and Iranian, U.S. and Israeli aircraft bombing the fucking shit out of them. Like, bro, we never had aircraft over there except to bomb Iran. Like, what is he talking about? What the fuck is he talking about? And the few people that is cheering for freedom, they don't understand the lie they're being fed. That's why half of Iran does not really support the United States. I mean, you can clearly, well, I don't know what they're showing in the United States, but I have the footage. Again, if you want to see what's really going on, watch my lives. This guy's got me joked out. I don't know if I can listen more to his ass, but anyway, let's keep going.
To give them the tools to rise up. Yes, it's going to be painful. Also, it's painful for us in Israel. It's painful for the Gulf countries. You know, Iran, they are attacking more Arab countries in 10 days than Israel did in 77 years. So it's not easy for anyone today around the world, but that's a price we have to pay in order to make this place a better, safer place.
It's been reported that up to 170 schoolgirls were killed in an airstrike on a school that was next to an Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps base. We still don't appear to know for certain who caused that strike. Can you give any clarity on that? It's been a week now.
So we are looking into that incident. I don't think it was our involvement. We regret the loss of life of any civilian. It doesn't matter who is behind it, whether it was the IRGC or someone else, but we regret the loss of life of civilians. And we target military infrastructure. When I say we, it's Israel and the US. Iran, they're doing exactly the opposite. And I saw the interviews of Iranian officials, and they are saying, we are not targeting civilians, only military targets in the Gulf. They are lying. Look at the airports in Dubai, in Abu Dhabi. Look what's happening in Tel Aviv for the last 10 days. They are targeting only civilian targets. So there's a huge difference about the intentions. But, we regret the loss of life. I just finished now an event at the UN where I hosted brave women from Iran who came to share with my colleagues about their experiences with this regime. One of them, a very brave young woman, lost her eye in a demonstration. The other was not allowed to come back into Iran. So we know that the people of Iran, they pay a heavy price, and I believe that soon they will be able to take the future in their own hands.
You must know, Ambassador, now whether it was an Israeli plane that fired the missile into that girls' school, albeit it may have done so.
Wow. Yo, you know what? I figured as much. I just wanted to hear the facts. And for one, Israel's not even trying to investigate shit. Number two, the United States isn't trying to investigate shit. So most likely Piers Morgan got that news from either India or the Iranians. And I had a feeling if the United States didn't bomb the bases, it was definitely Israel, because Israel was really bombing multiple areas of Tehran. And they would be more guilty than the United States. Now, it's still blood on both of their hands because they started this war, but I had a feeling most likely it would have been Israel, because they were doing most of the bombing of Tehran, and the United States were taking out more or less the ballistic missile sites. They were bombing the battleships, gunboats, and what else they were doing. Yeah, they were doing most of the ballistic weapons and stuff like that, and some of the airports. Well, no, I think Israel. No, Israel, I think attacked the airports or the Air Force bases. So yeah, that's news, yo. That is wild. I don't think, if anybody's seen this, I don't think they caught that, and I'm pretty sure they're gonna announce it soon, or Iran had just tweeted it, because it at the end of the day, um, revenge. Well, I think they already took out their revenge attack in some of the hotels. But yeah, man, that's fucking wild. Let's see. What timestamp is this anyway? 18 minutes in. That is wild.
Unintentionally, it may have been aiming for the base. I don't want to, prejudge what may have happened there. But you must know as a country whether it was one of your planes that did that or not. So can you rule out that it was an Israeli plane?
No, first I have to tell you that from my experience in Gaza, and I think we spoke about it in the past, there were incidents that Hamas or the Islamic Jihad launched rockets into Israel, and they fell in Gaza. And there was an incident, a very tragic incident in a hospital. It took a few hours for everybody to realize it wasn't us. It was actually a rocket that flew from Gaza and fell in Gaza. So we don't know the details. From the information I have, I don't think that our Air Force was involved in that incident. I know it's being investigated both by the IDF and also by the U.S. Air Force.
People are looking at what's happening in this war, and they're seeing a regime which remains intact. They're seeing the Ayatollah that was killed replaced by his younger son, also a Khomeini. They're seeing the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps still exercising ruthless control over the people. There's no sign of any uprising by the Iranian people, perhaps because they're fearful of the bombs, perhaps because they're fearful of the IRGC, but they're certainly not rising up in the way that Donald Trump was talking about his hopes would be happening. And we're seeing massive global economic mayhem driven by the virtual closure of the Strait of Hormuz and by the attacks by Iran on all the neighboring Gulf states, which are severely damaging the economies of all those countries. And that has a knock-on effect, obviously, for the global economy. And the longer this goes on, the worse the global economy will suffer, the more lives are going to get lost on all sides. And if ultimately the regime remains intact, how will you claim victory? What is victory?
So first, allow me to look at the upside also. Today we are degrading the capabilities of Iran. They don't have the same capabilities that they had 10 days ago, and we haven't finished yet. We will continue to hammer the infrastructure of this terror machine. And when I speak about capabilities, you focus on the ballistic missiles, on the nuclear capabilities, and their proxies. So I think, we can agree that it will not be the same. It will be a weakened regime. The question is whether there will be a regime change. I hope so. I pray for that. But it is up for the Iranian people to decide when they do it, when they rise up. If they are watching us now.
Skip. In my opinion, he just half-assed answers the question. All right, panel debate.
We're joined now by my panel, Doron Spielman. He's the former IDF international spokesman and author of When Stones Speak. Daniel Levy, the former Israeli negotiator and president of the U.S. Middle East Peace Project. And Scott Horton, author of Provoked. Welcome to all of you. Scott Horton, let me start with you. Clearly very different views of what is happening here from Jeffrey Sachs and Danny Danon. They had a very heated exchange in the UN, which says it all. I imagine that your agreement probably lies a lot more with Jeffrey Sachs than Danny Danon. But again, I'll put the same question to you about the possibility that this could eventually work, in the sense that Israel believes, with good reason, that Iran has been the tentacle, the octopus with tentacles, for all the terrorism in the region that's been aimed at them through the Houthis, Hezbollah, Hamas, and so on. That it's run by an evil, repressive regime, which has been that way for 47 years, repressing its own people, repressing everything else in the region it can repress, and that they've had this coming, and that by decapitating the regime, you may then lead to an uprising from the Iranian people, many of whom hate the regime, and that in 5-10 years we may look back in history, this is what I hear from many Israelis, and be.
Let me be clear. They're saying the regime was oppressing the people. They're not telling you Iran was sanctioned since Ronald Reagan. And when the sanctions hit, it caused turmoil. And when you have turmoil, people start complaining. And most countries try to suppress that. It's the same shit that's happening here, but not to that scale. And like one of my videos, I did meet an Iranian, and she did not say Ali Khamenei oppressed the country. All she said was, because of the suppression with the sanctions, she had to leave the country for a better life. Now, well, before the war, she told me she's ready to go back to her country. Her daughter wants to go back to her country. But now it's all blown to hell. It's being attacked. So, you know, I feel sorry for her. I wish I could meet her again. But it's a shame that she did not speak ill will of Ali Khamenei at all, period. In fact, she told me to look up the revolution of 1979. And so that was a clue to say that your country is the cause of my country's demise, despite I came here to make extra money because of the sanctions. Because of the sanctions. So take it from me. I actually talked to an Iranian, and believe me, she wasn't wearing no headgear. She was dressed American. She was here since the 80s, and she didn't speak a single negative word about her country. So keep that in mind. The narrative is they oppress the people. Now, if you looked at my yesterday's reaction with Israel's little protest that's now growing, you had an Israeli saying, oh, that was a lie. So that's two people. All right, well, make it three. Me, an Iranian American, and an Israeli in his own country in Tel Aviv. So it's up to you to decide what narrative you want to believe. But you got people telling you the truth. They're not brainwashing nobody. They're not brainwashed. Because if they were, I could tell. Because they repeat the same narrative. That's how you can tell.
Grateful for what has happened. What would you say to
that? Well, I mean, it's built into the question, of course, that this is all Israel's interests at play here. The great revolutionary Shiite menace is their problem, not ours. Our problem is the bin Ladenites, Al-Qaeda and ISIS, the radical Salafi edge of Wahhabi Sunni Islam and their terrorist movement, mostly America and Britain and Saudi Arabia's pet terrorists, although they oftentimes turn on us and kill us too. But
hey, you heard what he said. If I heard correctly, he said Britain. Hold on, let's go back for a second. Let's see.
Sunni Islam and their terrorist movement, mostly America and Britain and Saudi Arabia's pet terrorists, although.
See, let me try to go back some. Wait, let's see how far back I
go. They've had this coming, and that by decapitating the regime, you may then lead to an uprising from the Iranian people, many of whom hate the regime, and that in 5-10 years we may look back in history, this is what I hear from many Israelis, and be grateful for what has happened. What would you say to that?
Well, I mean, it's built into the question, of course, that this is all Israel's interests at play here. The great revolutionary Shiite menace is their problem, not ours. Our problem is the bin Ladenites, Al Qaeda and ISIS, the radical Salafi edge of Wahhabi Sunni Islam and their terrorist movement, mostly America and Britain and Saudi Arabia's pet terrorists, although they oftentimes turn on us and kill us too. But the Shiites are the Israelis' problem. And even though...
Yo, that's two things I'm going to have to clip. So, it's getting raw. Yo, so now we're being exposed for funding and supporting terrorist groups that turn on us, obviously, because we have a tendency of backstabbing them. So now, don't get me wrong. We also, all of a sudden, when Trump came back to his second term, is low-key supporting the Taliban. He just made a deal with them. I think a trade deal with them. I don't think any of you remembered that one, or y'all forgot. But yeah, that hit our headline news on the aspect. Oh, what? We're now friends with the Taliban. We made a trade deal. Like, fucking really?
Every time America runs an errand over there to try to spite them, we end up empowering them like we did in Iraq War II. And then inadvertently, when Obama built the caliphate to spite them, we ended up, that blew up too big. So they had to take the Iranian side again in Iraq War III, which is, you know, that we have strikes going on against Shiite targets in Iraq right now because that's the regime that we put in power. You quoted David Petraeus a minute ago about telling us how this ends. Well,
yeah, this man is just, bro, man, Jeffrey Saxon, this man is spilling over the beans, bro. He's dropping mad tea bags right now. And he's spilling the tea and the beans, yo. That is wild. And granted, I don't have time to look none of this shit up, but when I get a sense that I need to watch something, I watch it and I'm like, wow. That's more information to the information I have. Because again, a lot of this is a lot. This is a lot of information to get. It's a lot. And to be honest, you have to be in politics to understand this, because you have to deal with these people around the world and you have to pick a side. So it's good to find out who knows what they know. And I'm not gonna lie, this guy he's gotta be speaking some mad secretive truths. You know what I mean? Because he's not talking about we are friends and that's a lie, that's a lie. Nah, he went straight to the point. He didn't start gaslighting, oh, that person's lying. He don't even care what the other guy said. He went straight to the point. So you know he's telling the truth.
Iraq War II ended with David Petraeus putting Iran's best friends in power there and training up their army, the Badr Brigade, to be the Iraqi army. And that's who we got a problem with as the war spreads right now. But then secondly, as far as will the war work? No. And as far as, well, it depends on who you ask what their goals are. The Trump administration says they want stability. And they even told the Wall Street Journal, anonymous officials told the Wall Street Journal, they might be happy with the Ayatollah Khomeini's grandson. They don't like Khamenei's son. They want Khomeini's grandson instead. They have no capability, as Marco Rubio testified to the Senate. They have no one to put in power. They don't think for a minute they can parachute the monarchists in there. They don't think for a minute that the Mujahideen cult, communist terrorist cult, can take over. They don't think that the Kurdish communists, the PJAK, which are the Iranian Kurdish branch of the PKK in Turkey. They don't think that they can take over. They don't think that the Baluchi suicide bombers, Jandala, that America and Israel backed 10, 15 years ago, can take over the country. But as the Israelis told the Financial Times, that's fine. What they want to see is civil war. What they want to see is chaos and destruction and Iran taken off the board. They don't want to see a friendly new Iran, as Donald Trump said. They want chaos. They want Iran to look like Obama helped Israel turn Syria into back 15 and 10 years ago.
All right, Doran Spillman, there are many people who think that is exactly what Israel wants. They just want total chaos, a sort of rudderless Iran. That's why they're blowing up all the oil refineries. That's why their general view seems to be to cause as much mayhem as possible. What do you say to that?
Pierce, it's simply revisionist history. Listening to Jeffrey Sachs and, Scott, it's ridiculous. It ignores the reality that over the last 2.5 years and before, Israelis have been living in shelters, running in and out of shelters, attacked over our peaceful border.
What? Shelters? The fuck is he talking about? You mean to tell me this man is saying this whole little piece of country / land, the entire country was living in shelters? Bruh, what? What? Man, I'm here. See, I'm here editing my book. Shin Kameko Part 5. And this man is saying some stupid ass, like, asylum shit. Like the whole country of Israel had to immigrate to the Middle East and they're living in shelters until they can find their land. Like 1949 didn't happen because that's when Israel apparently started a war down there with the United States helping them, of course. Well, guess against who? Palestine. Man, oh, you gotta be fucking kidding me. This guy here. Wow. Man, makes me not want to even play no more.
Border with Gaza received thousands of missiles from Hezbollah, thousands of missiles from the Houthis.
Bruh, why would the Hezbollah and Houthis, he skipped Hamas, give the people missiles? But what planet are you living on? No, they had their own missiles that they got from whoever, most likely Russia and the United States. Because the United States are good at selling shit. They didn't arm the people. The terror, in fact, Hamas was criticized for protecting the people. Man, this guy, who the fuck is he again? Doesn't say. Man, this dude's out of pocket.
We've been targeted in Israel and overseas, and it all leads back to Iran.
Wait, what's his name again? Doran Spillman? But I'm about to skip over this. I can't even stand hearing his mouth.
It's as if Israel woke up one morning and said, we've got a great idea. Let's fly 2,000 kilometers and try to attack a country that has 95 million people, and we have 10 million people, that is 90 times bigger than Israel, put our soldiers at risk just out of the blue because Israel wants to take over the world.
That's about right, but it's more like Israel wants to take over Gaza, so that country you just described wants to protect the Palestinians in Gaza. Duh.
I mean, there's not a single shred of truth about this scenario. Let's wake up, everybody. At what point does a country have the right to defend its civilians against an enemy country that not only has said it wants to destroy you, but has launched 500 ballistic missiles in June, another series of ballistic missiles, including one that flew over my house and killed a worker in the middle of Tel Aviv today who will not go home to his family? At what point do we have the most basic right to defend our country. Should we just sit here and wait for them to keep firing and lay down and roll over? You know, there is such absolute hypocrisy. You know, I'm listening to Jeffrey Sachs, so Pierce, you let him speak for half an hour, and it was, you know, so emotional. Israel's committing suicide. Well, let me ask Jeffrey Sachs and you, how do you suppose that Israel should respond to the Iranian terror threats from 4 different countries that have been attacking Israel? Should we not fight back? Should we just lay down? Is that not suicide? At the end of the day, Pierce, we are leading.
Thank you for proving my point. That's exactly what I said. This is Israel's problem, not America's.
As opposed
Israel's
to
not an ally of the United States.
Scott, just one second. At the end of the day, this will go down in history.
Yeah, Israel is not an ally, but they sit at the table in NATO. So we got presidents who feel like, I'm not going to say they feel like they have to protect Israel, but unfortunately, Israel has taken advantage of the fact they're part of NATO and they're asking for help. And it seems like the United States were the first one to step up to say, I will help you. Meaning, most likely the other European nations was looking at what Israel was doing as like, we don't want no part of this. They still kind of don't want no part of what Israel's doing. In fact, Israel was being investigated under Biden for war crimes. Trump shut that down. That's why he withdrew from the world, man, what did they call? The World Peace Organization, something like that. He withdrew from them. And he withdrew from the World Health Organization because he doesn't want no part of Israel being prosecuted. It's his way of protecting, because America still has to have a say-so in the approval of their investigation. So, Trump has set the stage for Israel to get away with a lot, and here we are today. Israel is doing more genocidal acts for their own personal reasons, and depending on where you're getting your news, America, you're not going to see that entirely. So, just saying, I have the evidence.
The exact opposite of what Jeffrey Sachs said. You have Prime Minister Netanyahu and President Trump. Mark my words, they will go down in history like Churchill and Roosevelt, who were the first ones to confront the evil that spread throughout Germany and save the West. We are the very first ones, because there's an imminent threat against us, that are going.
Another thing, and I had to look this up, in the European Holocaust Museum. The European Holocaust Museum. Remember that. European Holocaust Museum. It stated Germany was at war only with Russia. The atomic bomb that Germany had was a fail-safe against Russia. Okay? Germany had put out they were going to attack Germany and their states. Poland was the closest. Poland was part of Russia at the time. France and Britain didn't want Germany to attack Poland. That's what started the World War, because the United States joined France and UK to attack Germany, and it saved Russia's ass. Poland is now part of NATO. Russia would have had a seat, but America turned on them. Why? Russia was the first in the space race. Russia had about world's probably first largest oil supply, and Russia was the first with stealth prototype technology. Russia was ahead of the United States in a lot of things, and we turned on them. That's why Area 51 is what it is. Just saying.
going to stop.
Oh, and if you still don't believe me, the United States had the Russian International Space Station deliberately fall from the sky instead of helping them repair it. And yet the Russians were helping us repair our station. Just saying. I don't know why Russia agreed to it, but they also didn't have the money. Why? Russia was heavily sanctioned after the Cold War. Just saying. So if you want to know why Putin don't really trust us, there you go. There you go.
This threat before it hits American soil. It already hit it already hit Israeli soil. They will go down in history. And everybody else that decries this war will be a minor footnote of those who said we should give in to the regime. We can't defeat the regime. If this was 1945, they would have just said, no, let's not finish off with Germany. Let's just let them reconstitute with Hitler.
Remember, I said, fucking cats. What are you doing? Remember I said, Israel started the war in 1949. So he's saying the war probably stopped around 1945. That gave Israel 4 years to move their asses back to the Middle East. Guess who let them back? The Palestinians only. The rest of them didn't want them back. Palestinians were nice enough to let them back. And then they decided to start a fucking war with them. Key timeline.
Your son, which is what Mujata is. He is Khamenei's son.
For heaven's sake.
Okay,
Right.
let me bring in.
Just
let me bring in.
real quick.
Hang on.
Just give me 1 second.
Hang on, Scott.
Okay.
Well, very quickly, because Daniel's been waiting patiently.
Yeah.
Very quickly.
Just very quickly, I said this has nothing to do with America. This is Israel's problem. And he said this is Israel's problem for 5 minutes. Yeah, that's what I said. Israel's not a state in the Union. We have no treaty of alliance with Israel.
I'd like to respond. I think that the United
Yo. And look, he's right. He's right. This is Israel's problem because Israel started this shit. And Israel they don't want to finish it. They don't know how to finish it. They don't have the manpower to finish it. But America has been giving Israel ammunition and money to finish it. And Netanyahu said 40-year dream. Let's see. It was around the 80s. Oh yeah, so around probably 1985 or 86 at 40 years. 2026.
Thankfully, there are no reports of major disruptions in oil supplies yet. Refiners in India are purchasing Russian oil. Remember they issued a waiver last week? This has helped India plug the gaps. But a lot of these measures, not just for India but anywhere else, a lot of these measures are not sustainable. Governments can hold fuel prices.
The United States wants a secure Middle East. I don't think anybody wants a destabilized Middle East. When Israel, which is the United States' greatest ally, is under mortal threat, as we now see Saudi Arabia, Scott, who is the United States' supposed ally, is now also under threat. You've got the UAE, who is under threat. All of them are under threat by Iran.
Because you started a war.
The United States has the courage, and this president has the courage, Scott, beyond just protecting the U.S. troops, thousands of which have died over Iran over the last.
Let me refresh everybody's memory. Iran said if Israel and the United States attacked, we would attack back. That's what they did. When Israel started raising parts of Iran to the ground, like Tehran, Iran had to change their art of war strategy. And so, since the United States continued to attack Iran, they started attacking the United States' interests, which are in the scattered parts of the Saudi Arabian Peninsula, called U.S. bases. So, now that I have refreshed everybody's memory, let's continue.
2 decades to say, you know what, I'm going to support the friends of the United States and to do the very simple act, which seems like none of you can accept, of defeating evil. Good standing up against evil. It can be defeated, and it must be defeated.
The point, the point I would make to that, Doran, is that you're very optimistic that the regime is going to be defeated. And I think that the problem at the moment is there is no immediate sign of that happening. In fact, the opposite seems to be the case.
Let me bring in Daniel 9 days. This is not a fairy tale.
Okay.
We actually have to fight to defeat the enemy.
Yeah, but we were told a year ago, actually not even a year ago, that the attack on the nuclear installations was incredibly successful and had neutralized the threat of Iran and its nuclear capability. And yet here we are, less than a year later, launching a massive war in Iran because apparently they were, imminently about to acquire the ability for a nuclear weapon.
Which that's been debunked by India's research and advisory team. Guys, I wish you'll stop. Sorry, damn cats. Got 3 of them. 2 males. Don't ever have male cats, especially 2 of them. So India has verified that's not true. On top of the fact what Trump said was not true. They did not hit the Iranian supplies. They only hit the Iranian sites. Why? Well, here's 2 reasons why. Number one, when countries release information that's supposed to be unclassified to the media, that means the classified information has been already ascertained and they need to make a decision on to do something strategic. So let's just say the information about their Iranian sites were unclassifiedly exposed, so they did something strategically classified to deal with it. So they moved their uranium. And when the unclassified information kept circulating, our dumbass president continued to believe it. And so they bombed empty uranium plant sites. And that's why he's talking to this day, going on week 2. We still got to secure the uranium. Gee, I thought you blew that shit up. Oops.
And those 2 positions seem to be completely incompatible. It's like either it was neutralized last June.
Shall I force my way in?
Well, okay,
or...
but it's stretching. It is stretching.
Shall I force my way in, or
Yo.
Yeah, Daniel. Let me bring in Daniel. Daniel, you've been very patient. Thank you. Over to you.
First, I'm struggling right now over this definition of evil.
Me too. I'm struggling with this dumbass. Oh, man. Yo.
I saw a country lay waste to Gaza. I've seen a country that occupied Palestinians. October 7th was a crime. But what about the decades in which Palestinians lived under a brutal occupation, a regime of structural apartheid? And then I look at what was done subsequently, and I'm shaking, because when I hear these glib comparisons to the Holocaust and to the Nazi regime, I feel it's a form of cheapening, almost of Holocaust revisionism.
Not just that, but they're gaslighting and playing victimhood while they do the same thing they accuse Hitler of doing. When you find out Hitler gave all immigrants and Jews months to get out of Germany. That is not in American history. That's in Europe's history books. He gave them time to leave Germany. And he also said, do not go to Poland because I'm going to attack Poland. Half the Jews left, the other half stayed. You can look it up. Hitler was trying to be merciful before he rained hellfire on the people he did not like and the Russians.
I'm quite confident that the Jewish population in Germany was not keeping the Germans under a brutal occupation for decades. What a horrible analogy to draw, to call this some kind of Holocaust. Now, first of all, if one's talking about evil, what we have witnessed in Gaza should be painful and shameful to anyone who has grown up in a tradition which respects and values Jewish life and which considers never again to not be a parochial call, but a universal global call. Now let's come on to the subject at hand, which hasn't attacked Israel. I wish I could say that Israel hadn't attacked Iran, but as in your expressions of astonishment are wonderful, but they belie a revisionist view of history. The attack in June was initiated by Israel. The attack earlier this year, was.
And that's the one piece of sniffing information that's not being told, because you have to keep in mind, Israel has been pounding the Palestinians every fucking month. They were attacking every month. Iran, the Hamas, the Hezbollah, even if the Houthis was involved, got sick and tired of it.
But why are these supplies cutting output? Well, the reason is quite simple.
They're not telling you that. It's on the news if you're paying attention. That's why we had protests all last year. Free Palestine. Because Israel was attacking every month. Israel wants to skirt over that.
One blocked waterway has frozen the entire chain.
Initiated by Israel, and my question is twofold. First of all, is this extreme ambition, extremism, this maximalism, likely to play out well for Israel? And what do we think is going to happen as this plays out, as Mr. Horton just suggested, with the US? Because I would argue that you have an Iran that has a strategy, and you have an Israel that has a strategy. It seems very clear, very transparent, that the Israeli strategy is not some fairy tale of a happy new regime coming into place. It is precisely regime collapse, state implosion, dismantlement, and chaos. Why? Because Israel has been very clear that it has an agenda of regional domination here. Why does it need an agenda of regional domination? Because that's not about security. We can come back and talk about that. But that is central to the notion of a zero-sum endgame versus the Palestinians. I think the Iranians have come into this with strategic coherence. This time around, they've changed their national security posture and said, if this is going to be done against us, if this kind of a war is going to be launched against us, we will make it costly. We will establish a deterrence, and we will challenge the notion that America can stay cost-free in the West Asia region. The worry I have, amongst others, is that the party Israel is relying on, I don't think, has a strategy whatsoever. America used to go to wars that were often problematic for the world, for those who suffered, for America itself, with some degree of competence and coherence, some degree of a multi-layered interagency process. Today, I think you have rank incompetence and incoherence. And on any given day, the question is, what is this about? You can make a geopolitical case. You could say this is
Daniel,
about
let me
oil.
ask you this.
If I can finish just this one thought,
yeah.
Piers, I'd be appreciative.
Yeah.
You could say
sure.
This is about a chokehold, like they see Greenland in geopolitical, geoeconomic terms, about oil. But you can also hear them talking about capitulation. You can hear them suggesting this could be a Venezuela 2.0. You can perhaps hear people saying...
Who's the they? I'm sorry, who's the they, Daniel?
The spokespeople of the administration that is carrying out
which administration?
War, Mr. Spillman. So I would suggest that this could end in a couple of days, or it could go on indefinitely.
It's sad he asked which administration. The only fucking administration is behind all this bullshit. Trump's administration, with probably Israel backing it. Like, be fucking real. Like, what the fuck? I guess he's tired of getting fingers pointed at his support.
What you have here is Iran has not tried to say we will escalate toe-to-toe with Israel and the US. They have said we will go vertical. We will expand the theater of war and make this a question not of military capacity, where the balance of power is clear, but of political endurance. And if you go into war, not like Afghanistan, if you're America, with 90% public support, not like Iraq, with 70% public support, but with barely 30% public support, bipartisan, criticism inside MAGA, your economy taking the stress, then the question of political endurance, which I think will decide this, I don't think looks good from an American and by extension, Israeli perspective.
Let me jump in. Okay, let me jump in. I would say the political stroke economic part of this cannot be understated because the economy is getting shredded globally. Oil and gas prices are absolutely rocketing. No one can get through the Strait of Hormuz pretty much without Iran say so. So this is a very perilous moment for the global economy, I would say, notwithstanding the military part of this, where the strategy of Iran has been just to scattergun attack its neighboring Gulf states because they know that by effectively doing that in the way that they've been doing by targeting hotels and airports and so on, they are acting as a massive deterrent to people who are not naturally born in those states to want to go back to wherever they came from. You see lots of Brits go back to Britain, for example, because they suddenly think that this safe oasis is not as safe as they thought. But let me just ask you one question, Daniel, before I go to the others for their response to what you said. And it says, when you said that Iran has not attacked Israel, and the two examples you cite were indeed retaliatory, but surely that ignores the reality, which is for decades, the Iranian regime, which has publicly talked about being wedded to the annihilation of Israel, and here the chance of death to America at the same time, and has killed lots of Americans and Israelis. But the part you're missing, which I'm really curious about your response to, is that surely you would accept that by propping up and supporting with arms and lots of cash Hezbollah, Hamas, the Houthis, they have been attacking Israel relentlessly for decades, but doing it through their proxies. And that is, to me, that is the same thing. Whether they're doing it directly or whether they're doing it through proxies, they have been attacking Israel. Now, you might have concerns about the way Israel has responded, and I would share many of those concerns. I've expressed them, but no one can persuade me that Israel isn't fundamentally justified in trying to defend itself from the tentacled attacks by the Iranian regime through its proxies for many, many years.
So I'm not going to carry the brief for the Iranian governing structure and what it has set out to do. What troubles me is...
What does that mean?
I'm sorry.
Daniel, what's your answer to Piers? What does that mean? Just...
Yo, like, why is he interrupting? Like, what the fuck, bro? He just started trying to comment and he just gonna cut him off? Are you serious? What the fuck? Like, all right, let's go on. Let's see. This is 3. Israel right to defend himself.
Sri Lanka too is under pressure. There are reports of long queues at fuel stations.
Sky Horton on Iran and Israel relationship. Dr. Fo Israel tells Piers what life is currently like in Iran. Let's see what, well...
Thankfully, there are no reports of major disruptions in oil supplies yet.
Let's see what this is all about.
Dr. Fouad Izzadi, professor at Tehran University. Dr. Izzadi, thank you for joining me on Uncensored. What is it like to be in Tehran at the moment?
We had a bombardment just a couple of hours ago. We have lost over 1,400 civilians, including 165 little girls. We are dealing with the Epstein class. They are bombing and killing little Iranian girls and raping little American girls.
The Americans and the Israelis believe that ultimately this is the beginning of the end of the Iranian regime, which has been obviously in power since 1979. What do you say to them?
You know, Netanyahu asked the Iranians on the first day of war to come.
That was interesting. Let's go back.
Dr. Fouad Izzadi, professor at Tehran University. Dr. Izzadi, thank you for joining me on Uncensored. What is it like to be in Tehran at the moment?
We had a bombardment just a couple of hours ago. We have lost over 1,400 civilians, including 165 little girls. we are dealing with the Epstein class. They are bombing and killing little Iranian girls and raping little American girls.
The Americans and the Israelis believe that ultimately this is the beginning.
I don't really know what to say to that, but it's probably it's probably deeper than that, because there is a lot of Americans over there in Israel, so they probably, you know, I guess in his term they using American women for personal gain, because American women are sexualized, and that's part of the Muslim culture, to be very strict about their women being sexualized. That's why they have head coverings and the bodies are heavily covered. It's to protect them from being sexualized. It was a biblical situation that started before the flood and even after. And the children of Abraham decided to keep that tradition, and several others. So that's probably what he's talking about in general, because there is a lot of Americans over in Israel, a lot. And he must know the Americans have this thing with sexualization. So, you know. Let's see. But why does Iran feel? I mean, to be honest, the answer to why Iran has to bomb neighboring states, um, it's because we have interests over there, and it's just retaliatory. That's what it is at the end of the day. And Iran has already said it. I think they already mentioned that already, and that's just the bottom line. You know, Iran doesn't have a partner right now. It's basically a two versus one. So they have to play smart and very, very strategic. And they're doing really well with it, to say that they're getting double teamed. You know, and it's a shame they're getting double teamed. So they have been reported on the Middle Eastern side. They have been prepared for this because they watched the might of the United States decimate countries in the Middle East. And so they had to think of ways to deal with them and to test the defenses of Israel. And they hold now. They hold now. So you gotta give them credit where credit is due, whether you like them or not, whether you understand the culture or not. Every country has their way of treating their people, good and bad. Just at the end of the day, they have we have it here. We're dealing with ICE right now. And if ICE continue to go the way they're going, without the Democrats, you know, pushing back, we will be just like every other country we accuse of humanitarian crimes. That's just the reality of it. So I hope y'all enjoyed that reaction. As you can see, we have people who he's gotta be American. Like there's no way he's European. He's definitely American. So Mr. Let's see what's his name, Mr. Doran Spillman. Like this guy here,
You know,
he probably was former American anyway. Sound like he's dual citizenship. So he's gonna support Israel. I'm pretty sure his daughter's got an Israeli husband. People like that are gonna support the country because they're all tied to America. You know. So it is what I wish you stop. So there you have it. Hope you enjoyed it. Keep your eyes open. Do your research. Please do your research. Especially America. Well, just do your research. Because the history we have in America is heavily, heavily censored. Heavily. And it's not designed to allow you to know the truth at all. Period. It's not. So, you know, you gotta do what you gotta do to find out the truth. Or talk to some foreigners that are being attacked by Americans or being sanctioned by Americans. Find out what's going on. See how they feel. And you're going to find out they don't like us. They really don't like us. Most immigrants come here because they need to make the extra money so they can survive. Because most of the time it's because their country is being sanctioned. You know, it's just, that's the reality of America. So, have a good night. It's 2:02 a.m. here. I got